The All Blacks have retained the Bledisloe Cup. I have lost my voice from screaming.
Yes! Come on, the All Blacks!
This is going to be an emotional video. I'm going to put out a second one where there's going to be more sober analysis of what went down, but tonight it's about the feels. It's about the fact that Razor's men did get home despite doing seemingly everything they could to throw that game away in the second half. Some of you might be wondering, why is this guy wearing Wallaby gold? Well, I had a bad feeling about this game, and I said that during the week. If you watched my video, you'd remember I said this is a banana peel game. I do not want to play the Wallabies after they've been thumped. I prefer to play cocky Wallabies, Wallabies that are riding high. A wounded wallaby scares me. I've been bitten before. So I decided today, in a moment of supreme neuroses, to wear Wallaby gold, not to take the piss, but to try and somehow jinx the Wallabies, because I just had a bad feeling, and that bad feeling did come to fruition in the second half. Australia turned back the clock. Make no mistake about it. They played like the Wallabies teams of the late 90s, early 2000s. Yes, the All Blacks did conspire together with a series of blunders to let Australia back into the game. But I'm honestly very proud of Joe Schmidt's men because they played with so much heart and they restored some pride to the Wallabies jersey. So I'm going to keep this on, and I'm not taking the piss. I'm wearing it out of respect. You know, the TAB was paying out $1.15 on an All Blacks win and $5 on a Wallabies win. And 90 seconds into the game, when Will Jordan skived through to score a try, you felt like the odds were fair. The All Blacks were just making it look too easy. They took Australia apart in seconds. There was a power and precision at the breakdown, at the clean out, that we haven't really seen from the men in black in South Africa because they've been out physicaled by the Bokke. Well, against a team that certainly knows how to throw the ball around, but didn't offer as much sting at the breakdown, the All Blacks were having their way literally from the first minute and started racking up the phases. The crowd in Sydney was stunned. Some of them were quite euphoric because there are a lot of Kiwis in Sydney. I'm one of them. I lived in Sydney for 20 years and I saw many Bledisloe Cup games at that stadium. But it was an ominous start from the men in black, and it really only got worse from an Australian perspective a few minutes later. In the 8th minute, Cortez Ratama, using his running game to great effect, was able to set up Rieko Ioane for another try, but the initial incursion was made by the surprising duo of Wallace Satiti at 6, Caleb Clark at 11. These two actually played off each other throughout the game, and they brought a dual power game that the Aussies just couldn't contend with. Both of those men were able to dent the line constantly. It freed up space elsewhere, and with the All Blacks support game firing on all cylinders, the men in black were just pouring through gaping holes in the Australian defence. If you look at the first 10 minutes, the Wallabies did get their hands on the ball. They had a little bit of possession, but handling mistakes and inaccuracy at the clean out at the breakdown was just giving all the impetus to the Kiwis. In the 14th minute, Clark struck again, and as I mentioned earlier, it was that combo with Satiti. What we saw here was the value of having power athletes. The All Blacks have been missing a trick when it comes to physicality earlier this year. You felt like they didn't really dominate the English. You certainly felt like they didn't get the upper hand over the Pumas in Wellington. And I think when you have Caleb Clark on the wing and Satiti in the loose forward mix, you have a couple of power athletes that are really from that traditional New Zealand mold, and I love to see it. But how were the All Blacks getting so much ascendancy? Essentially, I felt that the All Blacks were bossing the breakdown consistently for the first 40 minutes. And what was happening was you had guys making incredible solo efforts. I'm going to invoke the name of the big man himself, Richie McCaw, the deity of New Zealand rugby. Sam Cane had a McCaw-like performance at the breakdown in the sense that he was going in solo and doing the work of several men. He was really impacting the rucks single-handedly at times. And what that meant was the All Blacks were not overcommitted at the breakdown on attack. And that meant there was just a surplus of numbers. Time and time again, there were black jerseys queuing up across the field because of the efficiency at the breakdown. Make no mistake about it. We know the All Blacks can score tries. We know the All Blacks can build phases on attack. The entire first half dominance was built on control of the breakdown. This is a game that made you realize we really are going to have big shoes to fill when Sam Cane retires at the end of the year, because some of his input today was just momentous. But we are talking about Australia here, the lucky country, and it's almost like you're down at the river, you've got your pan, you're looking for gold, and you can always find little specks of gold when it comes to the Wallabies. They scored a try in the 18th minute. Fraser McWright kicked an amazing 50-22. Really, it was a 22-22. He hoofed the ball all the way down the field. One of the most impressive kicks you'd ever see from a loose forward. And so there were these little flourishes of brilliance from Australia, even amidst the onslaught from the All Blacks. But the Aussies were their own worst enemies, even as they occasionally wrestled back a bit of momentum. And it really started and ended with the set piece, as was predicted. The All Blacks picked off 4 or 5 Australian lineouts, and they were pretty costly. In fact, one of the balls that Australia lost in the lineout turned straight into an Ardie Savea try in the 24th minute. So you could see that the All Blacks were really capitalizing clinically on Australian mistakes, and yet there was a bit of a lack of finishing from the men in black, and they left a lot of points out there. You felt like at halftime they probably should have had 40 points on the board. There were a couple tries that were called back, forward passes, knock-ons. There were missed opportunities out there for New Zealand, make no mistake about it, even in a dominant first half like that. It was far from perfect. And as the first half wore down, the Wallabies were showing signs that they were getting back into the fight. I remember a moment where Tom Wright for Australia gashed through the All Blacks in broken play, and it looked dangerous except for the fact that he got isolated. There was no one there to clean him out, recycle the ball. So you had these individualistic moments of brilliance from the Wallabies, but just a lack of urgency capitalizing on them. Still, in the 35th minute, the Aussies were able to score off a really nicely done rolling maul. They kind of sucked the All Blacks towards the sideline and were able to splinter off and basically get around the men in black who'd kind of been shunted to the side. It was a super rolling maul try, not something we usually expect from Australia, but you got to give the devil their due. They did their homework on that one. Of course, that was a few minutes after they butchered a rolling maul try attempt. So again, it was Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde from the Wallabies, as it is so often. But you just knew the Wallabies were not going to find their way back into this game if their defense didn't improve. What happened was that they were just getting drawn like moths to a flame to the All Blacks' lead ball carrier, who invariably would be popping the ball directly out the back. It's so funny. If you look at the attack of both of these teams, you would have sworn the men in black were the ones coached by Joe Schmidt, because so many of their plays seem to be straight out of the Irish 2016 playbook, meaning you have a ball carrier taking the ball right up to the line, sucking in defenders. Out the back it goes. Another ball carrier comes in. Arcing run. Bang! Out the back again. The All Blacks would do this 2 or 3 times. Players in motion. Ball out the back, ball out the back, ball out the back. Suddenly, lateral space. Outflanking Australia happened time and time again in the first half. The All Blacks found acres of space down the wings. So what the hell happened in the second half? How did the Wallabies come within 3 points? Oh, man. These are answers I don't know that I have for you at 2 a.m. here in Portland, Oregon. Right now, I'm on a high, cloud 9. We've got the Bledisloe Cup, but I have a feeling that in the next couple of days, there's going to be a lot of uneasiness amongst All Blacks fans like myself. As we cast our minds back to that game and maybe even force ourselves to watch the second half again, we're going to see that there were fault lines exposed in the All Blacks that are very concerning. Make no mistake about it. We faded in the final quarter again. We incurred yellow cards, plural, 2 of them. We only put 3 points on the board in the second half after running in tries seemingly at will in the first half. The second half rot theme absolutely continued today. It's just that the All Blacks were good enough to get the win because they'd racked up so many points really in the first quarter of the game. That's when the damage was done. You almost felt like the All Blacks knew that they were going to have their customary fade towards the end of the game and felt like we need to get as many points on the board as we can. That's kind of what it felt like. The Aussies roared back to life. They looked like a completely different team. I saw an interview with Mike Cron at halftime. He used to be the guru of the All Blacks scrum. Now he's working for the Wallabies. And, you know, in his very laconic Kiwi way, he said, oh yeah, look, I've just told the boys, get some energy up, you know, get a bit more aggression. All you need to do is be like a step quicker to the breakdown and things will turn around. And he wasn't wrong. The margins are fine in Test rugby. The Wallabies started hitting the breakdown harder. They started D'ing up harder. It really was just a pretty simple attitudinal lift, and they looked like a different team out there. You saw Salakai Loto have an amazing break up the field that led to a Hunter Paisami try, and you just felt like, man, these Wallabies are coming hard at the All Blacks. This is not good. Really, the Wallabies were able to get their hands on the ball more, maintain more possession, treasure the ball more, win the battle at the breakdown a bit more, and they were just completely transformed. It took some pretty heroic individual efforts from the All Blacks, like a Sevu Reece turnover right on the All Blacks try line, just as the Wallabies were getting ready to put the sword to us. So again, you know, the All Blacks bacon was kind of saved by incredible moments at the breakdown. But my God, it was a close thing. And let's be honest, the All Blacks had pretty much a total meltdown in the last 10 minutes of the game. Caleb Clark got sent off for, I mean, you know, just a headless moment. After playing so well all game, and I'm not trying to take that away from him at all, such a silly action, really. Just batting the ball down when the Aussies were attacking out of their 22. He really had no chance of intercepting it, but it was just what they call a redhead moment. He was instinctive, he batted the ball down, but it was absolutely a professional foul. The second I saw it, I said, yellow, and sure enough it was. Anton Leonard-Brown had also incurred a yellow card. So for a few sickening minutes there, it was 13 on 15. And I do want to give the All Blacks a lot of praise for their heart. They scrambled very well on defense, being 2 men down. And it was a pretty gutsy effort to stop a couple of Wallabies tries there that would have been ultimately fatal when you look at how close the final scoreline was. The play of the match was probably in the 75th minute. Satiti and Tamaiti Williams teaming up at the breakdown, defending their own line, able to win a penalty, relieve a lot of pressure, and at that point, the All Blacks could start to kill the clock. They were only up a few points. In the end, that was all they needed. They got down to the 80th minute. Aussies got penalised. All Blacks just had to win their own scrum.
Come on, boys, get it! Put it up! Put the fucking ball up! Yes! Come on, the All Blacks! Come on, the All Blacks!
And the Bledisloe Cup stays in New Zealand for another year. But, you know, almost an impossible game to analyse. It was a frenzied, chaotic second half. A lot of errors from both sides. A lot of turnovers both ways. I don't want to end this on a note of Kiwi gloating. I really want to sincerely praise the Wallabies for that second half. And you got the feeling that with Joe Schmidt coaching the team, with Mike Cronin there, helping the forwards, the scrum looked okay today for Australia. Probably better than expected. Did get monstered a few times, but generally pretty solid. You just got the feeling that maybe the Wallabies could be a sleeping giant in world rugby, that maybe there could be a renaissance ahead of the Lions series next year, ahead of hosting the Rugby World Cup in 2027. Look, I'm a New Zealand-born man. I never want to lose the Bledisloe Cup as long as I live. But I do think a strong Australia is good for the All Blacks, and I know for sure it's good for international rugby. And I got to tell you, despite the usual errors and lack of accuracy, there were some promising signs from the Aussies in the second half today. So congratulations to them. They brought it. It was a hell of a game, worthy of those Bledisloe Cup classics from the late 90s and early 2000s. All right, guys, I'll be back for a more sober, well-rested analysis in coming days. But if you're a Kiwi, you're on cloud nine like me tonight, go the All Blacks. Oh, thank God we got the win. I'll see you guys for another one real soon. Take it easy. Bye for now. Whoosh.